You're listening to What is Black, the parenting podcast where we address issues important to raising healthy and thriving Black children and adolescents. I'm your host, Dr. Jacqueline Douge. So thank you for joining us for another episode. On this episode, I'm joined by author Kelly Starling Lyons. She'll talk about her new books, Ty's Travels, and Sing a Song, How Lift Every Voice and Sing Inspired Generations. You'll also get to hear about some of her other work as a co-founder for the Brown Bookshelf and her secret sauce for writing such wonderful books. So let's get started with the conversation. So thank you for joining us today, Kelly. It's a pleasure to speak with you.
It's wonderful to be talking with you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, like I said, it's a pleasure to talk with you. So Kelly, we can talk a little bit about the fact that there's still such an underrepresentation of Black authors or authors of color in general, but specifically Black authors. But you've been able to, to write all these wonderful books. I'm just wondering how is it that we still have such a low percentage or low representation of books written by Black authors for children?
Right. So I think that we still have a long way to go to achieve parity in the children's book field. It's not for a lack of authors and illustrators. It's not for a lack of talent, but there's a lack of access. So when you don't have enough editors who look like you, who understand the cultural nuance of stories, who can relate to the authenticity that is conveyed by what people are sharing, sometimes those stories are passed on. And I think it's really important for people to be intentional with their purchases and make sure when they're celebrating Black children's literature that they also consider who has created it. It was done by a Black creator. Sometimes people talk about books that are colored in brown, meaning that it's just kind of a superficial, just a skin color and lacking all of the connection that comes from someone who is an intimate part of that cultural background. So I think that the number of Black children's book creators speaks to the racism that we still have to work on, changing.
We're going to talk today about two of your books, Ty Travels and Sing a Song, How Lift Every Voice and Sing Inspired Generations. And I wonder if you could just share with our listeners an overview of your books.
Sure. So Ty's Travels is an easy reader series that centers and celebrates Black boy joy. This is actually something that is historic for HarperCollins, which is the publisher that has the I Can Read imprint, because it is the first easy reader series that is focusing on a Black family. So I feel really humbled and honored to be creating this along with the illustrator. But the focus of the series is just about our kids and our boys, their brilliance and their joy and their sense of wonder and adventure. And the plot point is that Ty turns everyday experiences into imaginative adventures. So for him, a cardboard box could be a train, a scooter could be a race car. So it was a lot of fun to write. And I'm really blessed that there are going to be 8 books in the series. So the first 2 came out on September 1st. And the other book that I wanted to talk about is called Sing a Song, How Lift Every Voice and Sing Inspired Generations. That's a picture book that was inspired by the history of our Black national anthem. I grew up hearing that song, singing it in church. And when I was little, I looked around me at people that were standing with their heads held high, with this look of pride and awe on their faces. And I knew that this was something special. Even without understanding as a little girl all the words, you got the sense that this was something big and important and meant a lot to who we were. And as I grew up, I heard that song everywhere that I went, Black history programs, Kwanzaa celebrations on the radio. My husband, he's from Jacksonville, Florida, and I got a chance to get to know his hometown and went to a museum there where I learned a deeper history about Lift Every Voice and Sing. The composers, James Weldon Johnson and John Rosamond Johnson, were also from Jacksonville. And James was the principal of the Stanton School, and he was going to write a poem to celebrate the anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birthday. He kind of had a bit of writer's block. He couldn't quite get figure out what he wanted to say. But he decided to change it a bit and create a song. He thought about us, his people, our struggles, our victories, and it just came out in a rush. His brother was a pianist and composed. They collaborated back and forth on the spot. It was sung for the first time February 12th, 1900, by a choir of 500 kids. And the part that really struck me was that the Johnson brothers wrote hundreds of songs, and they moved from Jacksonville to New York and other places around the country. But those kids never forgot, lifted every voice and sang. And when they grew up and they became mamas and daddies and preachers and teachers, and some stayed in Jacksonville and some moved with the Great Migration to the north and out west, they took the song with them. And that was the foundation of it becoming our Black national anthem. So the book pays tribute to that. It's a story told through 5 generations of one family who passed the song down.
Oh, that's amazing. And as you were talking, I was definitely thinking about, so this episode will be during the second half of my season 2 of the podcast. And I think there's a through line with the remainder of this these episodes of the second season, in the sense that, given all the news about racial injustice, through all of this, through all the protests, we should not forget our history, one,
Right.
and two, celebrate, right? So that's sort of kind of, it's like a counter narrative to the oppression and the
Absolutely.
negative media.
Yeah.
And so thank you so much for writing these books. And I know, these were, well, I don't know if they were inspirations for writing the book, the social movements, civil rights movements that we're going through now, but they're so important because, I always say, and I am a pediatrician and a black mom as well.
Right.
And I know the importance of the experiences of vicarious trauma, right? The
Right.
experiences of racism, but that's got to be balanced, right? There has to be an outlet. And I think these books are wonderful outlets. So, long-winded way of saying thank you
Oh,
for
thank
writing.
you. Thank you. And to speak to a bit of what you just shared.
Certainly.
Yeah, it was definitely, I do see Ty's Travels as a, not necessarily a counter narrative to the systemic racism that we're going through, but definitely wanting to use it as a vehicle of liberation for kids, for celebration. I love the quote by Toy Derricott. She says, "Joy is an act of resistance." So
Oh,
kind of something that blends all of those things together. And I think that kids, like you just said, are feeling the weight of everything going on, which is so heavy. The pandemic and all of the police brutality. And, sometimes we think that little kids, like the, preschoolers and the kindergartners, aren't aware, and they are, and they feel it. And so my mission with Ty's Travels was to let kids know that I see them and I hear them and I love them. And I want people to see them as they are, as these beautiful kids with big imaginations, which, who are brilliant and are wonderful friends, and that their dreams just have no bounds if we keep the world from kind of crashing down and, crushing in on them. So that was kind of the, definite spirit of that book. And Sing a Song actually pays tribute to all the people who are protesting. One of the things that I love about getting to do what I do and center children is that kids have always been on the front line of making a difference. But throughout all of our civil rights movement and other movements for change, kids have been right there. And so that's why I wanted to show how kids were the ones that kept Lift Every Voice and Sing going as I continue through the different generations. Each time a new child is kind of gifted the song by their parents, the song becomes something they can draw hope and strength from. And so in one area, there's a scene where Dr. King has been killed, and then the girl goes to school the next day and everybody's crying, and she's able to draw strength from it and sing the song. So I wanted it to be something that connects all of us. What's happening now, sadly, it isn't new. It has a long, terrible history. But if we all work together and we listen to kids who, often, have such pure hearts and beautiful spirits, and make sure that we're thinking of them as we act, and maybe we can finally get it right.
I'm excited to welcome our new sponsor, Puzzle Huddle. Puzzle Huddle creates puzzles that feature diverse Black characters. They believe that when children play with toys that feature images that look like them, they have the opportunity to be affirmed and engaged in imaginative play in a very personal way. And I believe this brand really supports the mission of What is Black to help raise healthy and thriving Black children through play and seeing themselves reflected back in the toys that they play with. These puzzles are also a great excuse to play together as a family. One of my favorite puzzles is Ballerina Love that I'm looking at right now. I was excited to unpackage it and actually put the puzzle together. It features a beautiful brown girl dancing. I'm ready to frame it and put it on my wall. It's that good. But there are so many other wonderful choices featuring characters that are doctors, which I love because I'm a pediatrician, scientists, and so much more. Buy your puzzle today. Check them out at puzzlehuddle.com. If you're looking for another great gift suggestion for this holiday season, check out my new middle grade novel, Learning to Love All of Me, available in paperback and ebook. 12-year-old Sydney Taylor is used to people questioning if she's white because of her light skin and curly hair. After all, no one else in her family looks like her. Despite her physical appearance, Sydney has always known she is Black naturally because her family is Black. But lately she's starting to question her racial identity. From her best friends declaring her hair too white to be braided to a classmate's twisted logic about a racial slur, Sydney is more confused than ever. So when a sales lady threatens to call the police on her mom because of a dispute about whether Sydney is even her child, Sydney is even more perplexed. But when she finds a mysterious picture that unlocks a forbidden family secret, the truth about Sydney finally begins to emerge. As she searches for the answers about her racial identity, Sydney must decide if she can learn to accept and love all that she is. You can pick up your copy today on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and wherever you buy books. I want to segue a little bit. Not only are you a writer, you've also co-created the Black Bookshelf. So if you can talk a little bit about that for us.
We were founded 13 years ago. And so every February for 13 years, we shine a spotlight on a different Black author or illustrator each day of Black History Month. And, so we have this vast archive. When people say, I don't know where to find Black children's books, or if publishers say, I would give somebody a deal if I knew where they were. We know where they are and we put them out there and we celebrate them. And our hope is what it boils down to with publishing and with lots of fields is the dollar. So we want to raise awareness so that people can be intentional about their purchases, to speak with, what they're buying and supporting. Because when Black children see themselves in books, their families, their history, and their dreams, and that story is written by a Black creator, then they know that they can create stories too. So we really want to empower and inspire the next generation of authors and illustrators.
Oh, okay. I'm down for that mission. I think that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about, sort of the inspiration and the relevance of the books now, right? To everything that's going on. But I just wanted to talk a little bit more about, your work with the Brown Bookshelf, right? Which I'm going to call sort of like, book activism, literary activism, as well as your, even your writing. How that really, what is the relevance of the things that you're doing to current events, right? How do you feel you fit into this narrative of what's going on?
Yeah, well, we actually just, I think it was last week, released a call to action on the Brown Bookshelf. It was part of a project done by a steering committee that included Brown Bookshelf members, Wade and Cheryl Willis Hudson of Just Us Books, which is a Black family-owned children's book company. We had Renee Watson, who's an award-winning author too, and we issued this call that really kind of laid out how the publishing industry can begin to try to dismantle systemic racism within its ranks and, work toward repairing some of the harm. And we listed some actions that we would like to have taken, including prioritizing the work of mid-list Black creators, hiring more Black editors at all levels, making sure that they're using Black marketing professionals, reaching out to Black educators. So, part of what we do is we celebrate Black creators, but as activists, we're also pushing for change in every way that we can. Some of that is done through our art that we create, and some of it is more of a direct, mission. And one of the other things that we try to do at the Brown Bookshelf, along with 28 Days Later, this summer we launched Generations Book Club. And so we had twice every month, we had reading recommendations from the youngest in the family all the way through the parents. And so we want to have the whole family that is reading together. We want to center Black literature. Often when you see recommended lists or lists of 100 children's books everyone should know, and then you don't see hardly any of us on it, that's wrong. And that's part of the system that has to be dismantled. So I think that we act in all of those different ways. I think if everybody creates change in their space where they are, together that'll be a really powerful movement, powerful wave.
Oh, I totally agree, because again, I'm just harkening back to some of the work that I do as a pediatrician with the American Academy of Pediatrics, right? So we partner. Many pediatricians participate in Reach Out and Read,
Yes.
which is an early childhood literacy program that you may be familiar with.
I have heard of that. That's amazing.
And so they do provide their books primarily for kids 0 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think, again, your early reader, I think, is great, because they're not from what I understand, they're not a lot of like even board books, right? Or even picture books for that young age that are very, very diverse, either written by, authors of color,
Right.
or have characters, right? Because they're either it's either letters, alphabets, right? And some of the work that we're doing, right, to try to address racism, because it has an impact on health, right?
Right, absolutely.
Mental health, physical, social health. And so books, I think, are a great way to do that. And I think sometimes as physicians, pediatricians, we struggle with what book list exists. So I think your book list would be great. And I know it's been circulating, when I've done talks and looking online, I've seen the Brown Bookshelf more often, more frequently, which is great. So, I'll definitely link to your resource.
Well, thank you so much.
With the episode notes, because being on the other side now, not really fully understanding the power that writers have,
right,
to really make a difference for kids. And as a pediatrician, I can use you all as a tool and as a resource. I think is great. So I love all the work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much. And I love and appreciate what you're doing too. I mean, Reach Out and Read is such an amazing program, and it really is important to focus on early literacy. And as you said, sometimes there's more focus on older readers, and we really want to start equity when kids are just coming into literature and just coming into classrooms. You were talking earlier in the conversation about kind of the trauma of racism, which is so devastating and so heavy, but it permeates the school walls too. So you have kids that how does it feel when you're in a class and you're never reading a book about people that look like you? That is a sense of invisibility that kids feel. So it's really important to let them know that they're seen and they're valued and their lives matter.
So I want to dive a little bit deeper into, again, you're a prolific writer. You have 17 books, right? So you published so many wonderful books. And I'm always intrigued by, like, how do you come up with so many ideas, right? And as I jokingly asked you the question, like, what's the secret sauce, right? The magic sauce.
Well, ideas are everywhere. I don't think I'll ever run out of them. And that the secret is really just to look at your life with a writer's eye. So what that means is, every day we are making history. Every day we have experiences that have the seed of creating stories that are specific to us, but through the threads and the themes, universal to others. So, being open and, kind of realizing that everyone is actually their own story. And that's really when the ideas just start to flood. And for me, over the books that I've written, the inspirations have come from, going to the Million Man March. I have a book called 1 Million Men and Me about a little girl and her daddy at the march. From a song like Lift Every Voice and Sing. From my grandma's cookies, I have a book called Tea Cakes for Tosh. From Jumping the Broom, I have a book called Ellen's Broom. So they come from history. They come from memories. They come from observations. I have a chapter book series called Jada Jones, which was inspired by my kids and also kids I meet when I go to schools who are brave and are great, great friends and full of empathy and are willing to push themselves to try something new. So I would say for anybody who, wants to get started on the writing path, you just want to keep your eyes and your heart open. A lot of people sometimes say that writing is putting your heart on the page. So you have to be open to the emotion of the story and the poetry of our lives.
Oh man, you can tell you're a writer. The poetry of our lives. That's nice. Okay.
Thank you.
So again, so we're gonna harken back to like how all these things connect, right? So you write, you're an activist, but you also are doing. You also have a book club for boys. So kind of going back, I guess, related to Tide Travels, and I don't know if they're related at all.
They
So I was wondering
are.
if you could talk a little bit about your book club.
Yeah, sure. So I have a book club for boys. It's led by me and my soror, and we've been doing it now. Let's see, I think the
So what
boys.
sorority? What sorority are
Delta
you a
Sigma
member of?
Theta, sorority
Okay,
incorporated.
deltas are great. Deltas are great. I'm a Alpha Kappa
Okay,
Alpha.
yeah, sisters.
So
I
but
mean,
you're just
we're all sisters.
yes. So
Yes.
shout out to the deltas, right?
Yeah, so we have been doing this since our boys were 5 and my son is 12, so 7 years. And every month of the school year, I usually choose a book. The books are always by Black authors. Often they're Black boy characters. And we read the book and we talk about the book, and then we have some kind of extension piece. So, for instance, when we read Letter Buck, which is by Vonda Michelle Nelson, illustrated by Gordon James. And it has a theme with horses. We went and took the boys horseback riding. When we read Sink or Swim by Carol Boston Weatherford, which is about the lifesavers, the Black lifesavers of the Outer Banks, we went to the Outer Banks and got a chance to meet some of the descendants of those lifesavers. So it's something where we want our kids to have a connection to books, to be able to bond as boys. One of their favorite sayings is Black boy joy. So they really embody that. And just watching them from being little and, running around playing superhero to, having fun, splashing in water. Definitely, I drew from them as I thought about how I wanted to create Ty. Because I think too often people from outside of our culture look at our boys and make them in their minds older than they are. And, they are sweet and they're innocent and they're, full of love and, they're so smart. And I just wanted that to really shine in the story in the hopes of, for the youngest readers, having their introduction, they can see our boys and see themselves and also see them as friends.
And I was thinking about it, it's like if you haven't already done so, but I may be giving you extra work. I think that would be great, like a great resource guide for parents, like giving them tips. So like as you read a book, right, where you can go, if, during COVID,
Oh,
right, during quarantine, it's hard to go someplace, but you could go on the computer.
absolutely. Yeah. So you think that I should make a tip list of connecting books with certain activities for people?
Yeah, I think that would be great
Okay.
if you have the time. But you've been
Well,
writing
I
a
mean,
lot, so I don't know if you have the
the good thing
time.
is, I mean, it wouldn't be super hard because we've done it for so long. So I could even
Mhm.
just kind of share some of the things that we've done if it's of interest to anybody.
Yeah, I think it'll be great because I hadn't really thought about that in terms of um, really relating the book to taking a trip someplace. I
Yeah.
know there's some books. Yeah, I think there's a lot of books that would lend.
Yeah, we always find something. It's not always a trip on the road. Like
Mhm,
we were
mhm.
reading Grandma's Records by Eric Velasquez, and we took the boys to a local Cuban restaurant, and they learned a little bit of dancing there. And then we read a book called My Uncle Romy about Romare Bearden. And then we had a local Black artist show them, some tips on painting. So, I mean, it could be anything in your community too. It doesn't have to be getting in the car and driving somewhere. I mean, it can be somewhere close.
I think
And
that's great.
as well as now, with so many opportunities for virtual interactions, you can get on Zoom with, pretty much anyone. And also there's a lot of museums that are having virtual tours. So you could read and then get online and tour something that has a connection.
All right, so I think you've already started it. People are going to hear your wonderful tips, right?
Well, thank you for the idea. I might have to make that one of my brown bookshelf features.
Yeah, or that could even be a book. Can you imagine? I mean,
Oh,
you know,
I might have to, give you a finder fee if it's a book.
I mean, I'm just thinking, because I think that would be so cool, right? Yeah, I think that would be cool.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the idea.
All right, so now it'll be like what your 100th. So before we head out, where can our listeners learn more about you, your books, your website, and all the wonderful work that you're doing?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, so I have a website. It's just my name, Kelly Starling, like the bird, Lyons.com. So KellyStarlingLyons.com. I'm also on Twitter, and my handle is at KelStarly, KelStarly. And you can also find out more about me through Vanessa Lloyd's Combati. She's doing such amazing thing that has been doing it for decades. And I am working with her in her program. She has a one called I Read to See Me. So she's been connecting me with schools and having me do virtual presentations for them. So if you have an interest in me coming to talk to your school, then she'd be someone great to reach out to. And her organization is the African American Children's Book Project.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of What is Black podcast. And again, I'd like to extend a special thanks to our special guest, Kelly Starling Lyons. She was amazing. And if you'd like to listen to other great episodes, please find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and so much more. When you're there, please remember to subscribe, rate, and review us. We'd love to hear how well we're doing. And also follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at What is Black. That's at WHATISBLK. And you can sign up for our newsletter on our website at whatisblack.co. Until next time.